G'day and welcome to the module, Introduction to Exporting Horticultural Products. I'm Robert Nissen, Research Fellow at Tasmanian Institute of Agriculture at the University of Tasmania, and Dr. David Montockton, Lecturer in Agribusiness at the University of Tasmania, have developed this lecture. In this week, we are looking at Australian horticultural exports. Firstly, the top two graph compares Australian nominal horticultural exports for 2014-15 to the nominal exports for 2021-22. Fruit and vegetable exports are expected to rise significantly. For example, the year ending June 2016, Australia exported 2.32 billion worth of horticultural products. Fruit and nuts is the largest value exporting grouping. In addition, there is an emerging global organic market. The Australian market presently owns 53% of the world's organic farmland. The top three organic products exported by Australia by the leading food basket categories are fruit and vegetable, dairy, home cooking ingredients. In this slide, 7 world regions for Australian exports are highlighted. For each region, the total exports of fresh product is profiled. In addition, the top 10 exports by value, where exports exceed 1 million, are indicated. China was the largest export market for Australian fresh fruit in 2015-16, with 190 million, ahead of Hong Kong at 173 million. Hong Kong had been Australia's largest fruit market for much of the previous 20 years. What are the benefits of exporting? Exporting helps the Australian economy and your company expand its capabilities and profits. The Australian government has also a large range of export government assistance programs. Exporting horticultural companies can derive substantial benefit, both direct and indirect benefits, from exporting. These include increased outputs, enhanced domestic competitiveness, increased profits through higher margins, extended the life of products, sell excess capacity, stabilise cash flows, improve employee skills. Exporting can be very rewarding. However, dealing with foreign customers can be highly complex. Challenges may include cultural, legal and language difficulties, time, cost of travel, meetings and cost of cultural business practices, nuances and business etiquette. There are also additional documentation and cost requirements, long lead times to secure overseas sales, securing reliable business relationships and partners, mitigation of export risks. Exporting requires a significant devotion to attention and detail. It may expose your company to additional risks. However, you may experience increased profitability and development of long-time lasting friendships. Planning your export capability and target markets are categorised under the following broad objectives. These are: access your export capability, market research, export market analysis, visiting the target markets, determining the appropriate market entry strategy, monitor and evaluate the market progress and your export progress. To determine your export capability, you may wish to conduct a pestle analysis, which will provide valuable information for your SWOT analysis. To understand the broad factors that affect horticultural trade, we need to take a global perspective. The World Trade Organization, WTO, is the only global international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations. The goal is to ensure that trade flows as smoothly, predictably, and freely as possible. While the WTO is to help trade flow as freely as possible, the WTO may take into account or determine if there are no undesirable side effects from trade. This may be important for economic development and the well-being of a country. The diagram represents the structure and functions of the WTO. Tariffs are imposed by a country on imported goods to protect its economy and ensure the welfare of its citizens. However, tariffs increase the price of goods sold with a country. Domestic producers also receive higher domestic prices. Governments benefit by collecting tax revenues. However, less goods are produced and customers pay higher prices. For Australia, economic deregulation during the 1980s and 1990s opened Australia's economy to the world, and combined with new investment and global demand contributed to a strong export growth for Australian business. Growth through the period averaged 9.8% per annum in value terms, and growth of volume recovered to 7.1% per annum. However, many countries still use non-tariff barriers as a form of restricted trade. Non-tariff barriers include quotas, embargoes, sanctions, levies, and other restrictions. For example, quarantine restrictions, and are frequently used by countries. Quotas are numerical limits imposed on imported goods. However, quotas also have a substantial impact on customers and increased prices. Quotas are used in international trade to help regulate volumes of trade between countries. Highly restrictive quotas can lead to trade disputes between countries. They can use protectionism, tariffs, import quotas, product standards, government subsidies. Also, anti-dumping is when the dumping or sublimitation of goods imported does injury to the country, and sometimes a duty is imposed. In addition, export quotas can be used to limit the export of products to overseas countries and ensure a country's natural resources are not depleted. Non-tariff barriers are another form of controlling the amount of trade, and these include quotas, embargoes, sanctions, levies, and market access requirements. Quarantine restrictions as well. Australian products exported to overseas countries are sometimes exposed to non-tariff barriers, and in the recent case where Australian agricultural products lost access to Vietnam. However, this agricultural trade is now being restored slowly and may take several years to reach the level attained in 2014 of approximately 40 million. Australia's stringent quarantine restrictions was the reason for the trade disruption. In this week's lecture clip, markets we have looked at, Australian horticultural exports and how they have increased over the years. In addition, we have looked at the major export destinations of our horticultural products. We have briefly looked at the benefits and challenges to exporting, and very briefly at export planning, the capabilities and markets. In addition, we have looked at trade and the WTO, tariffs, quotas, protectionism, and non-tariff barriers. Having appreciation of these factors is critical when exporting horticultural products overseas. Having appreciation of these factors is critical when exporting horticultural products overseas. Thank you very much.